Prestige 14 Flip AI Plus was supposed to be one of the first affordable laptops with a Panther Lake CPU, aka Intel Core Ultra Series 3. When we got ours, it was listed at B&H for $1,300 with the higher-end X7 chip. The XPS costs over $2,000 for this chip. MSI is moving this product over to Micro Center, and we're unsure if this price is going to stay the same, but we hope it does. On top of being somewhat affordable, it's small, lightweight, and it's one of the more well-designed 2-in-1s we've ever seen, with the pen clicking into place between the rubber feet. It doesn't work quite as well as I'd hoped, but that's not the real problem with this laptop. Unfortunately, as with a lot of MSI Prestiges, it gets warm when doing almost nothing, and unreasonably hot to the touch during intensive tasks. So much so that we would only recommend this laptop to someone doing basic office tasks and very light gaming or creative work. Even then, only if you can tolerate a warm-feeling laptop. If you're familiar with the gaming laptop, the Asus Zephyrus G14, it's sort of like that one. This is unfortunate, as the Prestige comes with one of the most powerful Panther Lake X chips, the X7 358H. This is a 16-core CPU with their powerful 12-core Arc B390 GPU. And it performs very well in this chassis. You can technically even play some more intensive games, but with these thermals, you may not want to. Since thermals are such an important part of this laptop, I'm going to start there. In benchmarks, we saw over 50 degrees Celsius for surface temps, which is very hot. Unfortunately, this is starting to be an MSI trend with the Prestiges. Last year's 16 also got very hot. So I wanted to see whether this laptop was usable at all with this kind of warmth, or if I needed to nix any recommendation of it entirely. These Panther Lake X chips have decent graphics, so I thought I'd boot up Premiere Pro for reviewing one of our videos and see if I could take the heat. I kept the Prestige in balance mode the whole time, and the fan noise was seriously non-existent. But when playing our Legion 7A video back at 1/2 resolution on my external 4K monitor, basically just scrubbing the timeline and leaving markers, it still got very warm, around 45 on the left side of the keyboard deck where it's charging. Not unbearable for me personally, but still very annoying when I work near a window in Arizona. Luckily, a lot of the heat on the Prestige isn't felt directly when using it because the keys are plastic and they don't conduct as much heat. If you touch the metal on the left or at the top near the hinge, though, you're going to notice it a lot more. When the laptop is just plugged into a monitor and dock, not doing anything other than office tasks, it still hovers around 39. Unplugged, it stays pretty cool when just doing basic office work like writing the script. As far as whether any of this makes it usable as a laptop, that depends on your own preferences. Josh and Seth are both more sensitive to heat than I am, and I couldn't see either of them picking up this laptop at all. As for me, I'm a bit less fussy, sure, but I would probably only grab it if I didn't have another option with a Panther Lake X chip. Let's go over the laptop itself. Its 2-in-1 form factor is a unique option for these new Panther Lake chips. Plus, it does try to make the most of it. I feel that the pen it comes with is a little too small and skinny, but it is nice that it's a bit lighter than a regular one. I certainly don't notice any discomfort when writing with it, but I'm also used to those tiny pens from Samsung. More than that, I mostly appreciate that I actually have somewhere to store it when it's not in use. As far as clicking it out and in, the mechanism seems a little inconsistent. You have to position the pen the right way, then push harder than you'd think to get it to stay in. Sometimes I would slide the switch to get it out and the pen wouldn't pop out automatically, so cool in theory, iffy in practice. The pen also fell out one time walking to Josh's office, which is not a long walk. I'm not sure if I didn't put it in all the way or I accidentally clicked it while walking, but either way, I would hope these kinds of mishaps aren't the norm, and I think this shows a lot of promise for a 2.0. On actually using the pen, palm rejection was very good drawing in tablet mode, and it had the added bonus of me not touching the warm keyboard deck at the same time. For artists who primarily use their laptops in this mode, it might actually be a bit more viable heat-wise. The pen it comes with supports the standard Microsoft Pen Protocol 2.0 and has 2 programmable buttons on the side. It's supposed to be pretty special too. They designed it with Microsoft, it only works on the Flip series, and it charges in like 30 seconds, which is handy. On the chassis, it is compact and weighs on the lower end of similar performance-oriented Ultrabooks. It does feel a bit cheap with some noticeable deck flex, which means the keyboard deck flexes a bit when you press down on it. This is even a little noticeable when typing. You can open the lid with one hand, which is nice considering that's not always a given on 2-in-1s. The screen flex is minimal and the hinges are solid enough to use the touchscreen or draw in tablet mode, but if you want stiff hinges, This doesn't have them. So, if you were on a bumpy train or something, you might notice a screen flop back sometimes. When you do open it, it reveals one of two display options. Our current unit has the 1920 by 1200 OLED 60Hz display, which has worse color accuracy and brightness than the 2880 by 1800 120Hz version we had in before as a pre-production unit. Therefore, this lower end one is a bit dim for my liking, only around 300 nits. It's definitely usable in normal office lighting, but if you prefer a bright screen, this is not it. There is also a bit of a screen door effect and some PWM flickering at lower brightness levels, which was disappointing. Having a screen door effect means there are colored pixels peeking through on stark white screens. The lower end display really isn't good enough for a laptop at this price. For the keyboard, I think it's one of the highlights. It is enjoyable to type on with a satisfying click. The trackpad is mechanical with what I'd call a pretty normal click, not too clunky. There are also these two symbols on the corners of the trackpad that you can double tap to open the calculator on the left and the MSI Control Center on the right. Here are the ports on screen if you would like to pause and see those. And here's how the speakers sound. So finally, let's get into how this laptop performs. Compared to the ZenBook 14 with the 255H from Arrow Lake, it sees a 28% improvement on battery life with a similar size battery and the same screen resolution, all while providing better performance in CPU tasks like Geekbench. It even performs almost as well as the higher frequency X9 388H chip here in the ZenBook Duo, while still falling behind the MacBooks and the Ryzen AI Max 395 chip in the Flow Z13. These chips are sometimes called Strix Halo. Moving over to Cinebench, we see a bit more of a split, where the other mid-range AMD chips pull ahead in both the ProArt PX13 and the OmniBook Ultra. Both of those are also meant to be very portable performance laptops, which is why we're comparing them here. The ProArt even comes with dedicated graphics and is also set to release with a Ryzen AI Max version later this year, which will still provide a stronger iGPU experience than Panther Lake. You can see that in the Flow's results in TimeSpy. The Prestige does well here, though, beating out integrated graphics in more standard CPUs you might see in thin inlays. In gaming, it keeps up with lower wattage 5050s in games like Cyberpunk, and even pulls ahead of the Duo slightly in terms of average FPS and 1% lows when we have FrameGen off. This is surprisingly good, but not at the level of a high wattage GPU like the 4060 and the ProArt. If we consider the fact that most of the portable laptops beating it in gaming, like the Flow and the ProArt, are both over $2,000, the Prestige's value becomes a lot clearer. If the price stays around $1,300, of course. The only laptop beating it in its own price range is the LOQ, and that one is a full-sized gaming laptop, much harder to carry around with you. Looking at Forza for a different point of comparison, the Prestige does the worst here, but it keeps its 1% lows above 60 FPS, which is nice to see. This is decent playability for a laptop this size, but again, it might be because MSI is letting it get so friggin' hot. When we look at its other performance modes in Forza, we can see that it's only really comfortable in its eco mode as far as keyboard temperatures go, but those FPS numbers are not playable at all. Fan noise is extremely quiet in the lowest two modes and only a little loud in performance mode, but if anything, they should probably be running the fans higher here. When we look at Cinebench in the different performance modes, it's a similar story. Each mode sees a huge drop in performance and fan noise becomes minimal, but the keyboard temps are still awful. So, while this laptop might be fine for some light gaming, light video editing, or creative work like I was doing, it is really rough for any tasks that essentially max out the X7 CPU or B390 integrated GPU. With that in mind, in lighter creative tasks like Photoshop, it performs well, although not as well as the Flow Z13 with Strix Halo. That integrated GPU is much stronger, as we've shown you, which also applies to creative work. So, is it worth it to buy the Prestige 14 Flip if it's the only Panther Lake laptop you can afford? Not unless you really think it's the best fit for you after you've considered all the issues I've mentioned. Trust me, out of everyone in the office, I was rooting for this laptop the most. The 2-in-1 design changes are very cool, although maybe a little less polished than I originally thought. Since those features of this laptop are a bit finicky and it gets way too hot to fully take advantage of the power of the Panther Lake X chip, it ends up being a miss overall. As far as price goes, you could probably get a better built, more premium Lunar Lake laptop from last year for the same price, like the OmniBook Ultra Flip. You'd still be able to play any of the lighter games we'd recommend sticking to on the Prestige anyway. If you are doing anything more serious, though, the Prestige is not going to be our top recommendation, even on a budget. You would be better off looking at low-end gaming or creator laptops for that, even if they do suffer in terms of portability and battery life. So, clearly there is a very small window in which this laptop makes some sense for some people, and I happen to be one of those people. I just don't feel like I can recommend it to others in good conscience, so I'm not going to. I'd wait for something else to come along that covers the same key points. We have not seen all the Panther Lake laptops that are going to be available yet, and I'm sure something better will come along from Acer, Lenovo, or HP, who are known for giving us budget-friendly options. When you're shopping for these new Panther Lake laptops, you can use the new Panther Lake filter on our website, bestlaptop.deals, to find out what's available, since our laptops get updated every day. It's a pretty handy tool, and you can even track prices across retailers. That's all we got for you, so until next time, I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.